Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Today we're doing a series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance the work in progress Atari Jaguar core, and very specifically the Atari Jaguar CD core, because Grey Rogue a few days ago uploaded a new test build for Atari Jaguar CD support. And if you're not aware, and some people probably aren't, the Atari Jaguar did have a CD add-on, basically looked like your standard American toilet on top of the Jaguar, and honestly some of the library mirrored something that you would leave in a toilet. I'm not here to make fun of Jaguar. I do think there are some good games on it, and something like Blue Lightning on the Atari Jaguar CD, definitely a game worth playing, but I just always love the fact that it definitely still looks like a toilet. And if you're not aware, the original Jaguar molds were then sold to a company that made dental x-ray imaging equipment, so there'd be an Atari Jaguar hanging on the wall at a dentist's office. The only reason I bring this up is because growing up my father was a dentist, and he had that exact unit on the wall, and I wish I had saved it. It was probably very valuable today. Has nothing to do with FPGA gaming, but honestly just a fun little aside. But you'll see here, Blue Lightning does have a fun vibe to it, has that sprite scaling going on. Definitely not going to live up to the hype of anything like a Sega or Namco sprite scaler, but is a reason to want to play Atari Jaguar CD. Before we get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Grey Rogue has done an amazing job of getting Atari Jaguar CD support more buttoned up within the core in and of itself. Now if you do want to test this one, it is on MiSTer Discord under the test build channel, but I want you to be aware that CD saving is not yet incorporated into the core, because you basically had a cartridge you'd put in top of the actual Atari Jaguar CD that would allow you to save your games on these CD based titles. That is not here yet, so it's one of those things, if you want to play a CD game, you're going to have to beat it from start to finish in one sitting, because saving is not going to be possible. And I do know the roadmap for the core definitely is going to be bringing that in, but right now it just isn't in the core. So if you're going to go down below and ask me how to save, definitely something I'm going to tell you. You should have listened to me in the video. But moving over to World Tour Racing, another decent game on the CD, has some polygons and kind of shows what the Jaguar could technically do. But it is the reality that the Atari Jaguar CD library is relatively thin, and the actual hardware is extremely finicky and delicate. There's so many Atari Jaguar CD units out there that just do not read disc whatsoever. Maybe the laser's bad, there's definitely problems with the spindle and motor. Having a working Atari Jaguar CD definitely is a challenge. I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year doing an exhibition of some of my rare arcade hardware, including 3DO M2, and someone had an Atari Jaguar CD unit on the floor, and it worked for all about an hour until it broke there as well, and they had to go to a flash cart to let people play some of the games. So having something like this in an FPGA core from a preservation standpoint alone is incredible, because even though we have Rich Whitehouse's Big PMU that can handle Atari Jaguar CD games, getting as close to the bare metal as possible in FPGA code is something great as well, because you don't really want to go out and buy an Atari Jaguar CD. They're quite expensive unless you're an Atari fan, like a mega fan, and at that point in time you probably already have one. So for most people, mere mortals that don't want to drop $1,000 on a Jaguar with a working CD unit, this is probably going to be the only way to play outside of software emulation. Well, leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play Atari Jaguar back in the day? Did you have an Atari Jaguar CD? I remember the Jaguar being on display at Sears in a kiosk, but I knew absolutely no one who owned one whatsoever, and I only played one much later in life when I started collecting home consoles and games. But at soundtrack sample time, you get an idea of what the sound is like in the current core. 45 seconds, and I'll come back and show you 3 more Atari Jaguar CD games you can play on the core today, some of which you'd actually probably want to play as well. But enjoy the music as it is good. mean, the music's definitely a vibe, and depending on how you feel about it, it's either a good vibe or a bad vibe, but it is there and it does sound correct. Now, moving over to a game that there is basically probably like a dozen different ways to play on MiSTer FPGA, but was one of the games that was marketed heavily with the Atari Jaguar CD is going to be missed, because basically back in the 90s, especially in the mid 90s, anything that could have a CD-ROM drive and run CDs had to have MiST on it. That was basically the law, because it's one of those games that definitely pushed CD-ROM adoption forward on PCs, and if a console had a CD-ROM drive, you know it was going to get missed. And even though this game definitely is antiquated and old as far as the gameplay style and how you interact with it is concerned, it is still one of those quintessential retro gaming experiences. If you've never played MiST and you like point-and-click adventure games, it's a ton of fun. Now, of course, because you can't currently save in the core, maybe not something you might want to take on the Atari Jaguar, but something that is working, and it is fun to see here. MiST is just one of those games. I remember playing it for the first time. I think even I got a free copy with a CD-ROM drive I saved up money for from my summer jobs to put in my PC back in the day, and I definitely did enjoy it. And even though it was eclipsed by Riven in my opinion, it is fun to see here running on the Jaguar core. And just so you know, these require .cdi files to function right now properly, but maybe your old friend Lance Charleston archived some of those for you somewhere online with a very Jeremy Clarkson vibe going on. I'll let you do the rest of the math on that one. But Grave Rogue has definitely improved this entire Atari Jaguar experience at this point in time, especially on the cartridge side of things. It almost feels like it is buttoned up. There's still a tiny visual glitch here and there, but for the most part, you can just sit down and start playing Atari Jaguar games on the core and having fun with them. Now, on the CD side of things, every once in a while, some of the FMVs like to stutter, or you have to skip past them, at least in my experience, to get into the game, but it is showing forward progress, and how the Atari Jaguar CD actually communicates with the Jaguar over the bus is relatively complicated, so getting this all right does take some time. So it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year until we have perfect Atari Jaguar CD support in the MiSTer FPGA core, but right now it is getting a lot better and you can play a lot more games, like obviously Dragon's Lair, and just like something like MiST, this was also required playing if you had a CD-ROM drive on any console. Dragon's Lair basically was a huge hit in arcades, so much so that I remember going to the arcades with my father one time. He played this game back in the day before I was bored and memorized it, and I watched him put a quarter in, or maybe 2 quarters at that point in time, and 1cc the game just based on muscle memory alone. That is how big and impactful something like Dragon's Lair was to the overall arcade community, so of course it got ported to every single console out there. But it is one of those games, you either love this genre or you can't stand it whatsoever, and honestly it's one that I continually die in over and over again. And big thanks to Kilter Music again for helping with the captures, because he played this one and he has the exact same problem with Dragon's Lair that I do, which is basically you're gonna die a bunch of times and you can remember exactly what's happening in the scene again, because these are types of games that require repetition in gameplay to memorize it. But you will see here the FMV video is coming across nicely. If there's any stutters, you would definitely notice them. It had some incredible animations back in the day from Don Bluth, and it still looks good to this day. The Atari Jaguar CD version definitely isn't the best way to play, but this is a technical showcase of how the Atari Jaguar core is shaping up, so it is a fun one to look at. Same thing with Brain Dead 13, definitely a little bit more of a modern theme than something like Dragon's Lair, but also another game that uses full motion video that works on the Atari Jaguar CD core, which is great because on real Atari Jaguar CD units there wasn't really any error correction. You could do 790 megabytes on the disc. If there was any issues with it whatsoever, it would just stutter. But here's another soundtrack sample and I'll be right back. Now, the reason I use that soundtrack sample, even if I find those hard cuts in the audio to be annoying, is that every time the screen goes to black or it actually loads up, the audio is starting on the exact same frame as the video is, and that is something really important in CD loading. You have to have the audio and the video married up together. If there's even a frame or two off, you're going to be able to instantaneously notice it. So as far as the audio streaming on the Atari Jaguar core is concerned, and any sort of audio that wouldn't be based on a cartridge, because obviously these are CDs, it does seem to be doing everything perfectly fine. And as far as Clax is concerned, fun game, you can play it on the core today, but it'll be fun to see how well this develops over the back half of the year, because there's still a couple of games that I haven't shown you yet, like Highlander, and that is a vibe. But we're done. Go play Jag CD, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.